Welcome back to Invasive Brews, everybody. I hope everybody is enjoying the warmer weather as much as I am, as I will be enjoying a Chaos Monkey from Casual Animal in Kansas City. This is a banana cream ale, and after a long day out in the sun, it just seemed like it would be the one that would be refreshing. So I'm going to try this one while we talk about today's topic: how invasive species spread. I mean, that just looks refreshing. So be sure to go to Casual Animal if you're ever in Kansas City. I've been there one time. I haven't done a video on them, but I'm gonna. So if they see this, maybe they'll sponsor a video. That's pretty good. Okay, so I've mentioned before that there is no such thing as a bad species. There's only species that are in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they shouldn't be villainized. Naturally, ecosystems are separated by geographical barriers. It could be as large as an ocean, it could be a mountain range, it could even be a large river separating species or populations. Sometimes ecosystems themselves are the barrier, such as a prairie in between two forest ecosystems. So how does a species of plant, animal, fungus, microbe, or any other organism get from their native ecosystem to one that's just across the barrier or across the world? Well, the short answer is human activity. Alright, there's the video. Cheers, guys. No, I'm just joking. That wouldn't be a very educational video, and I still have most of my beer left. But human activity is the major cause of introduced species throughout the world. Species naturally spread from one place to another, but rather slowly. This gives the new ecosystem a chance to adapt to the newcomers, but this process takes a long time. With today's technology and shipping and international travel, a lot of species can hitch a ride with us and get from one place to another rather quickly. So let's go over some of the most common ways that we have introduced species into our ecosystems. Most invasive species were introduced accidentally, and one of the major vectors of accidental introductions were ballast tanks on ships. In 2021 alone, the United States' largest ports handled around 50.5 million shipping containers. That's a lot of ships going to and from those ports, and each one of them has a ballast tank. A ship's ballast tank will fill with water when the ship is empty and empty the water once it's loaded. This is a way to keep the ship stabilized. When a ship sucks in water to fill its ballast tank, it also sucks in many organisms around it. On any given day, it is estimated that over 5,000 species of freshwater, brackish, and marine organisms can be transported in one ship. Organisms including fish, worm larvae, crab species, jellyfish, and some of the most devastating invasive species that we've seen here in the United States, the zebra and the quagga mussels. And it's not just animals hitching a ride in these ballast tanks. Plant seeds and some aquatic plants even reproduce by just mere fragments of the plant. Plants such as purple loosestrife, Alodia, and Phragmites have all been introduced through ballast tanks along with hundreds and hundreds of other species. But what about the cargo that's on those ships? It's not just the ballast tanks that are carrying unwanted passengers. Wood crates have introduced some of the most devastating insect species that we've seen here in North America. Two such species being the spotted lanternfly, which was thought to have arrived as an egg mass in shipments of rocks from Asia, and the emerald ash borer, which the larvae were thought to be in the wood of wood shipping crates. Since their introductions, both of these insect species have wreaked havoc on our ecosystems, forests, and even our agricultural industry, causing millions and millions of dollars of damage each year. To learn more about the emerald ash borer, be sure to check out when I was tagged along with Ryan Lawn and Tree up in Kansas City. Shout out to Kansas City again. And I learned a lot about that emerald ash borer and how they are trying to control it. I'll put the link into the description. Something else that's on those ships that are being transported across the world, but this time it's on purpose, are ornamental and garden plants. Nearly 40% of all of our invasive plants here in the United States originated as an ornamental in someone's yard. Plants like Japanese honeysuckle, giant hogweed, water lettuce, which is an aquatic invasive, multiflora rosa, and so many others, including kudzu, the vine that ate the South, originated as an ornamental plant. It had sweet-smelling blooms and sturdy vines, which made it an attractive ornamental, and it was planted as erosion control for soils, and even livestock fodder, which kind of is ironic because livestock other than sheep and goats, nothing else really likes it. But this vine can grow a foot a day and reach lengths of over 100 feet, so it's easy to see that this plant got out of control rather quickly. One of the most common trees you'll see in people's yards is the Bradford pear, which was shipped from China and Vietnam. These trees were sterile, meaning they couldn't receive pollen from the same cultivar of the tree, but as we shipped more and more different kinds of sterile cultivars of this plant, well, it's like Dr. Ian Malcolm said.
It's not possible. Listen, if there's one thing the history of evolution has taught us, it's that life will not be contained. Life breaks free, it expands to new territories, and it crashes through barriers painfully, maybe even dangerously, but, well, there it is. There it is.
You're implying that a group composed entirely of female animals will breed?
No, I'm simply saying that life finds a way.
Now these different cultivars can cross-pollinate and produce viable seeds. Even though we know about all these invasive plants, a recent study in 2021 found that over 1,300 vendors sold known invasive plants, and even some of them sold 20 species of illegal plants to sell. So next time you want to plant something in your yard, be sure to do a little bit of research and make sure you're not planting a known invasive species into your yard. If you want to know more about why you should plant native plants, well, I have a video on that too, so be sure to check that one out too. Plants aren't the only things that are being shipped on purpose. The exotic pet trade is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Whether it be legal or illegal, it's still a lot of money and a lot of species being transported. Animals are being transported to pet stores and breeders around the world. In 2005 to 2008, the US imported 1.4 billion ornamental fish. That's 1.4 billion. Among those species are snakehead, lionfish, pacu, cichlids, and so many others that have proven to become invasive species. And it's not just fish being transported and being invasive. The poster child of invasive species down in Florida, the Burmese python, went from wanted exotic pet to apex predator in just a few decades of its introduction. Even animals you don't suspect to be invasive and are lovable pets can cause so much harm to our natural world. Red-eared sliders, green iguanas, cats, dogs, even that goldfish that you won at the carnival, they're all on the invasive list. These animals get introduced into our ecosystems many different ways. Sometimes they accidentally escape their enclosures. Natural disasters take out pet stores or breeders, as in the case of the Burmese python in the 90s when Hurricane Andrew hit. Or sometimes the owner releases them thinking they are doing the animal a favor, when in reality it causes more harm than good. Pet owners aren't the only ones that are releasing animals into natural ecosystems. Sometimes anglers that use live bait, such as goldfish or crawfish, release unused bait into the different waterways. Like the rusty crayfish, a North American native species that has been used as bait and spread rapidly to areas that it didn't have any natural controls. And I hate to admit this next one, but science teachers like myself should really know better than to release unused classroom animals into the wild. But invasive ecology is a rather new science, and we didn't really understand the impacts of these species up until a few decades ago. So before then, when classes used species like the American bullfrog, particularly to teach kids about metamorphosis, they would take the entire class out when the little tadpoles turned into little frogs and have what was called release days and release these frogs into the ecosystem or the pond nearby. And now there is a new voracious predator in this ecosystem, and the American bullfrog has spread from its native range all throughout the country due to these kind of releases. Then there are the intentional releases of species, usually for biological control. Species like the bighead and silver carp. These are the ones you see the funny videos on, with the fish jumping out of the water and hitting people in boats. But are now taking over our freshwater ecosystems. These fish were brought over from China by both aquaculture and state agencies to clean sewage and aquaculture lagoons to keep algal blooms under control. Then those same lagoons flooded and those fish found themselves in the Mississippi River system. And you guessed it, if you want to learn more about that, be sure to check out when I was with commercial fishermen in Kentucky fishing for these fish. Other species have been introduced as biological control. One in particular is the cane toad. Introduced not just here, but to Australia and other countries to control pests and crops like sugarcane, hence their name. But these voracious predators ended up spreading like wildfire, eating everything they could, and not just the intended pests. You and I might be even guilty of spreading invasive species. When we go on a long car ride for a long trip, a fly, a mosquito, or even a spider might be tagging along in our car and find itself clear across the country. Some species, it only takes one pregnant female or a couple individuals to start a population. In fact, in 2021, a kid at the Kansas State Fair caused quite the stir when he had an invasive insect on his entomology project that hadn't been really recorded in Kansas yet. That was the spotted lanternfly, and it sparked a huge investigation. It was found to be an isolated individual that probably came through someone's either their grill or in their camper or in a bag. It's unknown how this kid found this one species, but it did cause quite the stir because that is a huge invasive species to our agricultural industry. Mud stuck on your tires or your mud flaps could be carrying seeds or spores. In fact, seeds from across the world have been found in Antarctica because it's thought to have been on people's clothes and their bags and their luggage. And if the climate there warms up in Antarctica, it could look like a whole bunch of plants from across the world. So do your part. Scrape your boots, clean your boats, make sure all the mud is off your mud flaps, make sure your car doesn't have any unwanted passengers in it, and you can help reduce the spread of these invasive species. And if you would like to learn more about invasive ecology and their effects on both us and our ecosystems, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and you can discover some new breweries along the way. But until next time, drink local and plant native.